Vivek Ramaswamy.
And the smug, condescending way that he just spews this poison out is very, very dangerous, because he won't stop Trump, but he's going to outlive Trump by about 50 years. And you're watching the rise of an American demagogue that is a very, very despicable person. Yeah. And I was shaking listening to him talk, because a lot of people don't know that is one step away from Nazi propaganda coming out of his mouth.
These people at CNN and Fox are terrified of Vivek. They are literally shaking and shivering and clamoring in their boots. I love to see it. When you got people like Van Jones, Dana Bash, and Brian Kilmeade saying bad things about you, take that as like a badge of honor and an indication that you're probably onto something. You're probably saying stuff that we should be paying close attention to. And it kind of reminds me of Big 45 and how he's been triggering these wokety woke media outlets since 2016. Boy, they hate them and despise some Donald Trump. And I want you to check out how Vivek absolutely schools CNN's Dana Bash about this whole J6 state of affairs.
Let's start with January 6th.
Sure.
There is no evidence that it is an inside job. It was a fringe conspiracy theory that the Trump-appointed FBI director, Christopher Wray, has said explicitly over and over is just not true.
So I appreciate the opportunity to address it. I was an anti-woke crusader leaving the business world, and if you had asked me 3 years ago, is there some chance January 6th is an inside job, I would have said that was crazy talk. I would say, looking at the facts of the video footage that have come out, Dana, it is shocking that you still haven't gotten a clear answer of how many federal agents were in the field that day. Look at now the video footage of actually throwing explosives and rubber bullets into what was a peaceful crowd, then releasing to the public what came in response to that. But now look at the video footage that was released, and I'm glad we're talking about it because viewers deserve to look at that footage. Capitol Police literally letting people in who were then now prosecuted. Some of them have gone on to commit suicide because of what the government's doing. That is a case of entrapment, and I think the government has not been transparent about this, which is why I then brought up another case where the government, now 20 years later, with declassified documents, told us that they lied to us at the time. And so I do think we have a government that's consistently lied to its people.
But an inside job suggests that everybody who attacked the Capitol was part of that.
I didn't say that, but I was saying that there's entrapment going on. There's entrapment going on, and this looks like a case of entrapment. And if you look at even over the last day.
What do you mean by entrapment?
Entrapment means that the police goaded people to do something otherwise than they otherwise wouldn't have done, and then they arrest them for actually doing it.
And you don't think it was actually the former president who was trying to get people?
I think that was the media narrative. Now look at actually a hard case.
We heard him with our own ears.
I'm going to ask you about a case and see what you think about this, right? You guys said this for a long time about the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. Suddenly gone silent after it comes out at trial that absolutely that was a case of entrapment, which is why 2 of those people were acquitted. So I'm saying this as somebody who, on the other side of this, as a biotech CEO, somebody who was even anti-woke, but if I was looking at this, I would have said a lot of this is crazy talk. But if you actually get into the details, I think it is startling how much the government has systematically lied. And I think it's both parties over the course of the last 25 years.
But on the
left used to be better at pointing this out and being skeptical of the government, but now it's the right.
Which is the most aggressive, offensive attack on the U.S. Capitol and on democracy itself that we have seen in our lifetime and in many, many lifetimes. To say without evidence that it was an inside job.
I'm not saying it without
dangerous.
evidence. I think that what we're seeing now is the video footage that's come out. I was in a different place before a lot of that evidence came out, but you have to respond to the evidence. What is your response, or what is anybody else in CNN's response to the video footage that was released of Capitol Police literally just peacefully allowing people into the Capitol?
What we know
or
is
shooting
that
into peaceful crowds.
850 people have been convicted of crimes.
But the reality is many of them were convicted before that information was released.
And do you think that former President Trump has anything to do with this?
No, because you're bringing up a really good point, and your audience and everybody deserves to know the truth about this. Normally, there's a rule in constitutional law. It's called the Brady Rule. You have to turn over exculpatory evidence to the other side. In this case, it wasn't turned over because the DOJ said Congress was sitting on it. Now Congress has released it. That's why I said I would pardon many of those peaceful protesters because
I want to go to something else that you said, which I think is
not a left or right issue. I think this is a civil libertarian issue.
I want to go to something else that you said that I think is really important to explore, and that is the great replacement theory.
Yeah.
That, I'm sure you know, is a theory that has been adopted by white supremacists who believe that people of color, Jews, are trying to overtake the white people in America. It has been used in mass murders from not even just America, worldwide.
If you have something this broad, a lot of people that mean a lot of different things. But I will be very specific about what I meant, because I posted this yesterday, even before this debate. I've been very precise, and I'd encourage people to look at 10 hard truths I posted yesterday, including that video footage from Jan 6 for our last discussion. People should view it. Look at the video I posted yesterday of Biden and Mayorkas 10 years ago expressly discussing, and these are Biden's words, not mine, about non-white populations exceeding white populations in the U.S. through immigration, and that being not a bad thing, his words, not mine. I think we should be able to have this conversation in the open without using fringe theories.
But when you use the term great replacement theory, that is exactly what that refers to. But you understand that term is something that evokes anti-Semitism,
and it evokes piece of this. I'm against anti-Semitism, and I've spoken accordingly.
But people who have,
but I think we also have to admit the truth of what's happening, Dana.
But
this is coming through Biden's own words.
This is being used
10 years ago
for killings in Buffalo, for a killing in Poway, California.
If it was a Republican saying the same things that Biden said 10 years ago,
do you understand how dangerous
it is? Conspiracy theory.
It's not even just a conspiracy theory. It's dangerous
I disagree. I think what's dangerous is the suppression of open dialogue. Well, look, I think that we need to have more open dialogue in this country, and when you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. If you tell people they can't scream or object, that's when they tear things down.
It's the term.
And
great replacement
you and I share something in common. We don't want to see violence in this country. I think the way we're going to get there is close the gap between what people will say in private and what they will say in public.
Yeah, it's just a fringe conspiracy theory. We should trust the FBI. We should go right along with what Christopher Wray is saying. There's nothing wonky and fishy going on over here. Nothing whatsoever. Just like with Hunter Biden's laptop and the big guy getting millions from the Chinese. That never happened. Just a big old conspiracy theory. That's exactly what they label something that they don't want you to investigate and dive deeper into. And we've seen the footage, lady. There's literally proof. It's right at your fake fingertips to consume and report on. But yet these people continue to lie and to try to divert our attention away from reality, from what actually plays out here in the real world. And every time that these people get confronted with facts, they deviate into this Trump derangement syndrome and try to say that he conducted the whole thing. They'll say that insurrection at the Capitol was a far-right nationalist MAGA blitz. Get out of here with that garbage. Do your job, get some integrity, and give we the people some trustworthy reporting. That's all we're asking for, just to get back to basic journalism and report on what actually is, not what you perceive it to be or what you want us to believe the narrative is. Just tell us the truth. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ says it best in John 8, verse 31. The truth will set you free. Y'all need to get you some of that and stop trying to keep up with these lies and stop living in this fairy tale make-believe reality. Stick to the truth, and then you won't have to lie. Just come out with it. Let that burden be released off your shoulders, and life will be a whole lot better for you. I promise you. But I want you to watch how now Vivek dukes it out with Fox's Brian Kilmeade about all the money that we've printed and shipped over to Ukraine. And notice who prioritizes American safety and interest first, and how that triggers the other guy.
I just like to know, with his policy, it's just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine. He says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's... can we hear us now? Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like sanctions, so like we have right now?
Well, look, I think that we have to be able to have real consequences. Maximum pressure campaign. We have sanctions. We don't have a maximum pressure campaign. And I can go into the details of that, and I have at the Nixon Library and elsewhere. But what I'm saying, Brian, is the clear principles are this war doesn't advance U.S. interests.
Yes, it does.
Russia-China
if you give
alliance
up Eastern Europe,
if you give up
Eastern Europe, we'll be in a world war.
If I may ask your question, if
right.
you ask the question, I want to make sure I answer it.
It is in our interest.
Detailed contours of a deal. I think it is not in our interest to strengthen the Russia-China alliance, and I think our policy right now is driving Russia further into China's arms.
It's going to be done anyway. You cannot keep Russia from China.
I think Russia is going... I think the answer is we are driving Russia into China's hands. There are kinks in the armor of that relationship. Look at Russia sending weapons to India and to Vietnam after other meetings they've had. This is our opportunity. Nixon did this in 1972, and Brian, respectfully, people like you said the same thing, that Nixon couldn't do it. Well, it takes an outsider who's skeptical of that establishment. That's going to be me.
I was 7 years old.
But we can both...
But
and I are
just-
both students of
okay,
history, and I trust you to
Vivek,
know that.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of
I'll tell you
Georgia.
what I'm not
And
comfortable
all
with.
we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion. So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you see how they
Ukrainian
fight?
autocrat can buy a
These
bigger
guys
house.
are the best
That's
fighters in the.
corrupt, and I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the
That's a
best
lie.
fighters in the
Ukraine
world.
is not some democracy.
Ukraine is fighting for their
Ukraine is not
sovereignty,
and
they were invaded.
Here's something that the news
They were
media hasn't
invaded.
reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential
It just
candidate
makes
from
you sound
2019,
so
but somehow the media
naive.
doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
You just
Brian,
give up
I
Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up Ukraine.
I respectfully, we can respectfully. Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about here.
Really?
Nixon did this in '72. We can actually split up the Russia-China alliance
and what
advance
happened?
American interests.
I think
and protect
World
our
War
own
II
homeland.
is your better example.
I think it is offensive.
World War II
Well, I
is your
think-
better
no, World
example.
War II,
One
if
is
you
a
use the example
diplomatic
from World War II,
approach, and one is an active
Japan and
war.
Germany. If you could have split up Japan and Germany, then I do think that you actually have a good example
Really?
of World War II.
You were going
If
to
could have
convince
split up that
Hitler
axis,
not to
that
go
would have
with
been
a
better for
fascist
the world.
nation?
And I'm not talking about convincing anybody, Brian, but the fact of the matter is I think it is offensive that people would sooner use $200 billion of our resources to protect some other nation's foreign border that's not a democracy, when in fact we're not even doing that effectively.
You can do both. It's not either or.
We're doing neither.
It's neither. It's not either or.
Brian, and that's the fact of the matter. And I think this neocon wisdom needs to be relegated
forget
to the dustbins of
neocon
history where it
wisdom. No one
belongs.
buys into that. Just give
I
up
agree with
Eastern
you to
Europe.
forget it,
Just give
actually.
up Eastern Europe.
Iraq
Why not?
And Afghanistan. Look at those results. The same people that took it to Iraq and Afghanistan are trying to do this again in Ukraine, and it's already been a disaster. Time for the neocons
not
to admit
one
it and
soldier
actually
is
move
there.
on and
Not
protect
one
this
American
country,
soldier is there.
Something they have done. Well, Lloyd
Just
Austin threatened earlier this week that we are going to send our troops unless we pass that aid package, actually. So,
Okay.
Brian, you mark my words. Listen to Lloyd Austin, who's advancing the same policies as Nikki
He's
Haley
saying
of
he's going to
Karl
send
Rove.
troops
That's
that they
exactly what's
move it to
coming
a
ahead.
NATO nation, not to Ukraine. Pay attention.
He expressly said that it's going to require sending troops if we don't actually pass
we have to
the
go.
Ukraine
He
aid.
said if
so
they
I think
take
that this
a NATO
is
nation.
boneheaded foreign policy. And I think that the
All right,
hard
fellas.
answer is that we need to
Vivek,
protect Americans. That's the answer.
Thank you so much for joining.
I don't know about y'all, but to me, that's gooder than chicken right there. And I just love how Vivek isn't afraid to stir the pot. He's not afraid to get up in the ring, get up in those lions' dens and get folks all riled up, get them in their feelings. At the very least, that's good marketing because these people are always going to be talking about you. You're always going to be living rent-free in their head, and you're always going to be trending in the headlines. So I'm here for it. It can only help him going forward, in my opinion. And we already know Trump is going to win in landslide fashion, and I'm still Team MAGA voting that way all day long. In 2024, in case you're new, I'm voting for Donald Trump. But when Trump is done, though, this dude is going to be a problem for these radical leftists. And him or Ron DeSantis, I like both of the guys, honestly, and I don't think we could go wrong either way in 2028. Now, I do have to point out, as a Christian first above everything else, that's my priority. That's what my focus always will be. We can talk about all this political stuff. We can talk about all the social issues all day long, but I'm a Christ follower above everything. So the only downside that I've seen to Vivek so far, and it's a big one, is that he's a practicing Hindu, and that ain't the way to heaven. There's only one truth and one way that gets to experience eternal salvation, and that's through Jesus Christ, the Messiah. So I love him. Don't get it twisted. I pray that the Lord keeps him safe, and at some point, he needs to pursue the most important thing, because your politics can be spot on all day long, but if you haven't reached repentance like he needs to, if he hasn't repented of his sins and have his heart transformed into loving Jesus, he's doing it all wrong. And at the end of the day, all of this stuff is passing away. You can put all your trust and confidence in man all you want, but at the end of the day, you will be let down, and your ending to life will be just that. You will die if you continue to wage sin without following the lamp that guides us into salvation, and that's Jesus Christ. So that's my hope for everyone that's lost in darkness. Left or right, we're all human beings created in the image of God, but not everyone is following Christ. And if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. He's the only faithful friend that brings peace and that can fulfill all his promises. He's the only one that can curb all the cravings that life has. And no matter who's in the White House or on our screens, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it may be, we need to look to and praise him. He's the chief. He's the president. He's the captain of the ship, the king of all kings, the Alpha, the Omega. And if you don't look to him, it's going to be a very painful and hot ending to your existence. And I don't want that for anybody. But what do y'all think about all this? Do you like Vivek? Do you think he's telling the truth, or do you think he's blowing a bunch of hot air? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know down below in the comments section. Let's keep this conversation rolling. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, ring that notification bell so you get notified anytime I post a new video. If you like what I'm doing over here and you want to show a little extra love and support, make sure you go check out our website down below in the description section. That way you can get all the awesome shirts you see me wearing in every single video. They're all made by my beautiful wife. This one says created with a purpose. It has it on the chest and on the sleeve. It's based on Ephesians 2 verse 10. I like mine a little baggy, so it seems a little extra room to move and groove, but we got all different sizes ranging from itty bitty extra small to big and hefty 5X, a bunch of colors, different designs, all of that. I'm sure you can find something that you like or a great gift for someone that you love. Outside of that, you can always join the Gibson family here on YouTube and become a member. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Patreon family. All those links are down below as well. By no means do you have to do any of that. Just showing up and allowing my freckle face to rant at you for a few minutes, I am greatly appreciative. I love y'all. I cannot thank you enough. Until next time, I'll be praying for you. Godspeed. I'm gone.